The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome, Dr. Kachmann, to our show today, which is be very interesting. It's about fermenting, and really looking at the cover of this book, and it shows you really what it's all about. And I will explain this to you, but just looking at the cover is kind of interesting. Fermentation is something that we need to take advantage of. And you're hearing more about it on the news media. Our famous people, which I review, are fermenting sauerkraut, for example. Sauerkraut, delicious, something that I enjoy eating myself. So let's get on the road. Incidentally, this whole show will be on YouTube by tonight. Yes, you can watch it again. I got to hear this again. And I do some of this too, and I have some ideas for you at the end, how to follow a very healthy diet, like I do, 135 pounds, 90 years old. Yes. And I told you before, I take no medication except one, vitamin M, music. So let's get on the road. Fermentation. Let me give you a definition. The life-changing power of microbes. Those are the guys that line your gut. Okay? Fermentation, here's the definition. It means the chemical transformation of any food or drink with the help of yeast, bacteria, or other microbes. And you see those microbes in this jar right here. There's some in there. Producing bubbles or heat. And you can see the bubbles going up. And as these microbes feed on the food or drink, they produce hundreds of new and unique compounds. They're creating new types of food. Sauerkraut. Okay. Let me read you the definition again. Fermentation means the chemical transformation of any food or drink. You can drink it or eat it with the help of yeast, bacteria, or other microbes, often producing bubbles. You see the bubbles going up here. Or heat. As these fermenting microbes feed on the food or drink, they produce hundreds of new and unique compounds. Interesting. We know now that this is ancient process of alchemy, that's chemistry, not only transforms the flavor of the food, tastes differently, making it more complex and delicious, but it also brings a multitude of additional health benefits. Examples of fermentation foods are sauerkraut. I like that. And you hear more about it. That's the more popular of the fermented foods. And sauerkraut. Kefir is another one which you drink more commonly. Yogurt is it fermented milk, yeah. And kimchi, just adding some bacteria or yeast to your diet is astounding. It could cause so much healthy change. Very interesting. I hope to convince you to throw away your vitamin supplements and instead try thinking of fermenting food as more nutritious and tasty. Tasty better. Okay. Food is more nutritious and tasty with more proven benefits for your health. It is these potential health properties and their effect on gut health that has ignited people's interest. Yeah, and you're learning all about it today, and it'll be on YouTube. Well, I'm mentioning YouTube, incidentally. YouTube, I don't even know who did it, whether it's AI or not. But as you're watching this video, of course, you hear the sound and you see me talking, but underneath they're now writing what I'm saying. Yeah, that happened overnight. If you look at all my 1,000 YouTube shows, they all have a script underneath now. Isn't it marvelous? The science is evolving very quickly. Perhaps one of the reasons that these benefits aren't better known is that many people are fearful of fermented foods. They don't know what the term means. That's why I'm doing this show, so that you gain some knowledge. I want you to look at my shows, but I'd like you to read a book too. You can get books, incidentally, Amazon books. Look for used copies, $2 or $3. Mm-hmm. That's a secret I've learned. You don't have to buy a new one, which aren't that expensive anyway. You can go to the library like here and get one, but I like you to own one. That way you can circle things and underline things. Easier to remember, easier to show to somebody else. So I recommend that. But I have great news that fermentation has spread across the world. And I will share it with you now. This was published in the Wall Street Journal, on June 18th, 2026. And I have a copy. Where I was able to get a copy printed out for me, the library, they do it. They can go back any date and get the actual newspaper. It happened to me a few days ago. Everyone in Trump's cabinet is eating sauerkraut. Yeah. They learned the science, and it's spreading. In a new diet sweeping through President Trump's cabinet, it involves heaping portions of sauerkraut. Hey, you're fermenting, okay? The healing secretary, the health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, I think you know about, I mentioned this word before. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Vice President Vance, and we, as you see him on TV all the time, have all embraced the diet drawn by the promise of slimmer waistlines and glowing skin. But if you look at Vance now, you can see he's lost quite a bit of weight and he seems more glowing. So I tend to believe that. They all apparently have determined the health benefits outweigh the slightly sulfurous odors which are produced by fermentation or some domestic friction within a few days. But Kennedy said he lost 20 pounds, said Kennedy. J.D. Vance, the vice president, is also on the diet, and you can see how different he looks. I told you that. Look at him. You see him on TV all the time. The diet is the brainchild, and this is very interesting because this doctor I'm going to mention wrote a book and a cookbook, and has arrived at my house today. So I'll be reading that and maybe have some more to say. The diet is a brainchild of Dr. Sean, S-E-A-N, Mara, M-A-R-A, Sean Mara, who advises high-profile patients. I think he charges a lot too, and I saw that on the internet, but that's the way it is. So he advises high-profile patients to eat fermented foods such as sauerkraut and kimchi, which I mentioned before, some you drink. Incidentally, his book will be at my house in 2 days when I wrote this, but it arrived today. Tonight when I go home, it'll be there. Dr. O'Mara, M-A-R-A, says the diet leads to reduction in visceral, that's organ, fat which wraps around the organs, and also increases our microbiome, our bacteria that are lining the gut, a microbiome. That's interesting too. Kennedy, age 72, was the first to convert to it. Lutnick, 64, converted to it. Duffy, age 54. Vance, 41, committed to the diet. Kennedy began the diet about a year ago after meeting with Dr. O'Mara. The Trump administration officials on the diet have been known to trade tips when they are gathered at the White House. Interesting. Trump was at times resisted cutting out healthy foods. Trump's stocked his campaign planes, and frequently stopped with McDonald's foods. Yeah, we've all seen that, and I think we know that. Dr. O'Mara, who I mentioned before, started advising politicians, cabinet members, during the second Bush administration as one of the physicians to assist at the White House. They've known about it for a long time. For snacking, Dr. O'Mara recommends Old World cheese. Actually, I eat some of that. Blue cheese, Gorgonzola, Parmesan cheese. I use some of that for snacks. And that's fermented milk. And healthy. Been doing that for a long time and found it works. I'm 90 years old, weigh 135 pounds. Okay. One case doesn't prove anything, but you know, it may be a good start. Dr. Vance, J.D. Vance, has stayed committed to the diet, often eating eggs and sauerkraut, pickles, blackberries, and raspberries for lunch. I'm going to be there. Beef or lamb with sauerkraut for dinner. On Air Force 2, the plane, remember he's number 2 guy, he snacks on grass-fed jerky and eats a hamburger without the bread, with some cheese, no bun, and some fermented vegetables. Interesting. I'm teaching you, and you're learning. Kennedy's wife said, that's Robert Kennedy, that Kennedy wakes up at 6:30 in the morning, and every morning to cook steak. Cooks a steak and eats it with some sauerkraut. No wonder he's looking healthy. And to understand fermentation is to understand gut health, gut, and it is crucial to optimize your long-term health, so preventing disease. There are many health benefits with fermentation. That's the reason I'm trying to teach it to you today. Fermented foods are much easier to digest than their unfermented forms. A major impact of fermentation food is clearly on the gut. The impact is on the gut. Ferments improve the microbiome. That's the bacteria which we live in the gut, and there's billions of them. Billions, yes. So you want to be friends with them, okay? And so ferments improve microbiome health, the health of your gut, by strong overgrowth of pathogens and encouraging greater species diversity, more diversity of the microbiome. And microbial diversity or richness is now used scientifically as the best overall measure to explain the wide differences between people's health. You have a better gut, you get better health. And if you're fermenting, it's even better. Isn't that interesting? Microbiome, that's the bacteria in your gut, billions of them. Diversity has been shown in countless studies to be a crucial parameter of health. Interesting. With low diversity associated with every common Western health problem. Interesting. From depression to diabetes, it affects not just your gut, but actual health in general. Nearly 80% of our immune cells, that's the guys that help us, are lining our gut. Listen to this, nearly 80% of our immune cells are lining our gut, so they help prevent cancer, they help prevent disease. So you can see how important fermenting is. There's a reason, so they can resort to our chemicals in our food and our gut microbes. Makes sense, doesn't it? There's increasing interest in using diet and ferments in the treatment of cancer to fight cancer, which is now recognized as mainly as an immune condition, since the immune cells are located in your gut, and through fermentation you can improve the gut. You can see how important that is. Caused by failure of the immune system to kill the malignant cells. So if the immune system doesn't kill the malignant cells, you might get cancer. So how important that is. Yogurt, which types of yogurt which I like, is a live ferment. It's fermented milk. I love to go to a restaurant here where they serve yogurt, sauerkraut, yes, the whole thing, and it's really healthy. As a live ferment, fermented milk is simply a type of dairy product that has been cultured with specific bacteria or yeast strains which break down lactose, the sugar in milk, into lactic acid, making the milk give it a little bit of a sour taste, a little thicker, a little creamier. I think they're talking about yogurt. Then there are many types of fermented milks. Sour milk, kefir, maybe you drink it. Buttermilk, you can drink it. Cheese, which I use a lot as a snack. And yogurt, which is the best known. Top fermentation tips. Eat fermented foods daily, 3 times a day, if possible. Wow, yeah. Fermented foods contain up to 50 species of microbes, so eat a variety. Interesting. Fermented foods reduce inflammation, help boost the immune system, fight cancer, and the effect of aging. Yeah, maybe that applies to me. 90 years old, take only vitamin M. music every day. Try to taste different types of fermented foods to see which ones you like. You know, like yogurt, you might like that. The other types, sauerkraut, you might like that. Fermenting at home is cheaper and easier than you think, so you can learn to do it at home. Fermenting is safe if you follow basic hygiene and ensure sufficient salt and sugar to maintain acidity and control the amount exposure to the air, because certain bacteria are affected, by the air. Precision fermentation can be made by microbes without killing billions of animals. You can do it with microbes. You don't have to kill the big animals. The first tomato ketchup recipe appeared in 1812, changing the main ingredient from mushrooms to pickled tomato. Little history for you. Slowly evolving it into its modern form. In the U.S., many were eating ketchup at that time. Yeah. Well before fresh tomatoes became cheap and popular. Chilies and peppers have plenty of healthy polyphenol chemicals which reduce inflammation and blood pressure. Remember, I said fermenting can result in chemicals that are healthy. They naturally carry plenty of microbes to kickstart wild fermentation. Interesting. One of the best known fermented chili products is Tabasco. A plantation owner in New Orleans planted special Mexican Tabasco chilies on his farm and prepared his own juices, peppers, and ground from a mash and placed a load with salt and white oak old whiskey barrels. So you had barrels there, you put them in there. They ferment the mash for up to 3 years. 3 years. That's what they did in the old days. Which distilled vinegar, bottled in a finished sauce. So he is converting it to vinegar. Some cultures ferment tomatoes, onions, and they require longer times. Okay, there's a lot of change in fermentation throughout the world. It's been there for hundreds of years. They like to add some vinegar as well as brine to make turso, Tursu, a ferment. Fermentation mushrooms doesn't have a lot of receptors. The mushrooms don't have a lot of receptors, which are some people's favorites. Healthy vegetables, fungi, beans, peas, chickpeas, and lentils are easy to ferment and are really very healthy to start, but need to be fully cooked before fermenting, which add some salt and it takes about 3 days. So there's many different ways of doing it. Some on barrels that take years, and some use a few days. As spices are a great source of diverse polyphenols and should be part of any healthy diet. Turmeric is a good spice to use. It has been long and in even Chinese cultures centuries ago. And in Ayurveda medicine, which you've heard of Ayurveda medicine. And that's an anti-inflammatory compound. And it helped nearly every common disease. Curcumin was another one that was used, and it helped every common disease. What is the future of fermentation? Okay, it's been around for thousands of years. We're really, big time, starting to take advantage of it now. You can ferment vegetables to represent meat products, simplicity foods. In northwest London, they have vats of fermented tomatoes, soy, onions, mushrooms, to make sausages, burgers, mince, ragu, and they taste really good. Well, who doesn't like to eat? I like to eat. Okay, and supplying restaurants. In England, they're supplying restaurants with a range of foods like meat-free mince with a base of fermented chestnut mushrooms, onions, miso, sauce seasoned with fennel, seeds, garlic, red chili, flakes, and olive oil. Fermentation can really get a lot done. The demand for all fermented food and drink products is rapidly growing. I mean, we're going to have restaurants that serve it soon here, I'm sure. The market will be worth nearly $100 billion. That has been predicted for the future. And it is growing about 7% a year. Engineered microbes routinely produce substances that originally came from animals, including 90% of the rennet used worldwide in cheese making. Yeah, they can make it through fermentation, reducing the need to slice open some animal's stomach. Making cheeses such as Parmesan, which I love, especially as a snack, also has some ethical considerations. Kombucha, how to make it. Make a large brew of good quality black or green tea. Let it cool and dilute it with cold water. A little glass container. Add good quality white sugar at 7% of the total weight of the water. Once cooled to below 35 degrees, add your symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, add a splash of an old mature kombucha and bring put a loose lid on it, wait for a day, roughly a day, until you have the sourness you want. Transfer it back to the fridge with some kombucha and juice to keep it alive. Remember, we're talking about bacteria, yeast. Strain a bottle of your kombucha, chill it in the fridge, and enjoy. And here's one of the last ones: how to make simple wine vinegar, how to turn it into vinegar. You can do it. Decant the remnants of an open bottle of wine and use a wide glass. Dilute the water. The alcohol content drops to 10%. Cover with a cloth to let in some air and keep the bugs out. Wait 8 weeks for fermentation, and then you have vinegar. Okay. Transfer a narrow-necked bottle with a lid or cork to slow further fermentation. Well, I think information I've presented to you is very interesting, and there's a world of fermentation out there, and how to take advantage of it. Because we're doing this, it tastes good, but we also want to become healthier. I'll tell you, here is a real good one for you. This one you probably ought to write down or listen to again. Myself, remember, 90 years old, 135 pounds. How did I do it? I eat 2 meals a day. I've told you about this before. Because our body secretes about 5 hormones which keep your blood sugar like that. You don't need to eat breakfast. Breakfast was invented by industry. But now you get 2 meals left, okay? And this is what I used to do, actually. Play pickleball, eat nothing, and come home around 11 or 12 and eat. And what I would like to do, then you only get 2 meals left. If you eat one very healthy, you're going to be very healthy. But if you only eat the second one healthy, you're going to even be more healthy. But, I would always say eat an avocado, cup of eggs, some bacon. But if you were to add some fermented food, and I'm going to do that, and add sauerkraut. So what I'm saying is, you can add the sauerkraut to those other 3 I mentioned. You're going to be a very healthy person. You're going to be a very healthy person. And I think that's important because we are seeing so much disease, like across the world. And here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, same thing. We're one of the worst, and the problem is that so many people have type 2 diabetes, which causes, listen to this, 57 chronic diseases. 57. If I were to name them off one after the other, you'd fall asleep. Okay, so my main aim really is preventing, stopping, reversing diabetes. But it's so simple. So simple. Eat real food. That's a statement from Robert Kennedy. And if you eat 2 meals a day and add fermented food, and another thing which I would like to point out to you, I'd like you to go to YouTube, Kachmann, Kachmann, just like spelled on your TV. A lot of people spell it with a C and then you get lost. And look at some of those TV shows. Dr. Kachmann, how many of them do you have on TV? 1,000. It's true. I've been doing this for a long time. I do a TV show here about once a month. And I'm going to have another one coming up in about a month. And this will be interesting because I already, on my YouTubes, you can see I have 2 about milk already. But milk is so tied up in industry and lobbying and bribery that I researched it even more. So I have 2 of them already, but my next show will be a 3rd one because I have a book that really went into the detail of it that arrived at my house today. So I'm going to read that. I'll have that sitting up here. I want you to be very informed. But what I like about those YouTube shows, I want you to look at some of them because I have no idea where it came from. Whether it's AI or something. But if you look at the show, it now will write out what I'm saying so you can hear it. But if you have no hearing, you can read it. You can read it. And if you can't see, you can hear it. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And just to go over 1 or 2 of the shows that already are on there. I have ones on keto, Keto, and health. So you can watch a show on YouTube on that. But on that is, I speak about Susan Ryan's book, Simply Keto. And she has a book there, which again, you can buy for $2 or $3 used. I've done it many times. I was speaking to a church group one time of 15 diabetics. So I went to Amazon and I got the book for $3 a piece. When I walked in with this stack of books, each person had a free copy in their hand. I think having a book has some value because you can underline and circle things and refer to a certain page and put it in your library or give it or buy some extra copies and do like I do. You probably have some friends who have diabetes and they're going to get some of those 57 diseases. If you have any ideas how we can attack this diabetic epidemic, I think you come to me with your ideas, and it is very difficult. I'm getting certainly somewhere. I give lectures everywhere. I'm all over the YouTube, so that you can get the information there. Tomorrow I'm giving a lecture in Warsaw, Indiana for 1 hour on fermentation, but also I've been doing this for years. So, and one of the ladies there, Dana, called me the other day, and she had a significant health problem, but she had the most wonderful news. She had lost 28 pounds of weight, and all her blood work was normal. And the important test that was normal was a serum insulin. I'd like to tell you something about that. If you were to come up to me and say, I'm not diabetic, my HbA1c is normal, then I would say, but you got to be able to tell me what your serum insulin is. This is an interesting story. The serum insulin is elevated 10 to 15 years before the HbA1c, the blood sugar, is high enough, and say, you're diabetic. Yes. And while the insulin is elevated, it's making holes in your body and causing disease, but you don't have any symptoms, so you're full of disease, but you have no symptoms. That's why half the people who die of heart disease grab their chest and they die. I don't want that to happen, and it can be prevented. And we need to check for serum insulins starting at age 2 or 3 in everyone. That information that I just told you is in many books. It's not just me. And but maybe because there's 2,000 medical books in my basement, that could make a difference. But then again, I'm just an individual, and with the combination of and I do these TV shows here, so I need the books. I need the books, but I've read them, and I continue to read them. Matter of fact, when I come home tonight, I know you're not surprised, but there are 4 books waiting for me. One is about milk, real milk, not the milk. When a cow has a baby, they right away inject it with the growth hormone, yes. And then the cow grows bigger, produces more milk, and they can make more money. And then they put it in a cage, and they add more hormones to it, and it produces more milk yet, and you're taking the milk and give it to your child. That's occurring today. Mm-hmm. Yes. Real milk is not injected with hormones. And that's one of the books that's coming in my next TV show. It's going to be on that subject, because I am concerned what's happening in the schools is that the kids are drinking milk, and this milk is from the cow with the hormones. They're getting all the hormones, growth hormones, other hormones, pesticides, herbicides. So this milk will be a big thing. So that, I think, will be a big subject here. And I hope today you've learned a lot about fermentation and bring it into your lives. Look at this video a couple of times, and maybe buy this book here by Tim Spector. And it's a beautiful illustration, and the life-changing power of microbes, and includes easy recipes to try out at home. How about that? How about that? And remember what I said. You can go to Amazon and get cheaper copies. It didn't mention the price on here, but usually $20 or so. Used copies, $2 or $3. Buy some extra copies and give them to people you think you know them. One thing I meant to mention too is 30% of the normal weight people are diabetic. They need to have HbA1c and a serum insulin, 30%. So if you think, I'm not diabetic, I'm thin, that's not the answer. It's those 2 tests. So anyhow, we'll see you in about a month, and we'll talk about milk. That should be very interesting. Thanks for watching this show. I sure enjoyed talking to you. I love you. Bye-bye. And maybe when I'm 100, you can beat me at pickleball. We'll see. Bye-bye.